What made you suddenly remember something you'd blocked out for years? While my grandma was dying of cancer, I watched my granddad go through hell. Every night I could hear him crying in the kitchen, while vigorously typing on his laptop looking for any solution to help cure her. Most of the time I would pretend not to hear him, because whenever I helped, he would get angry. You know the type of anger men get when they're embarrassed. But other times, it was unbearable. I couldn't even stop myself from going down and at least making him a cup of tea or something. For context, I've lived with my grandparents ever since I turned 14. Not because my parents were crazy abusive or anything, they just never really got me, I guess. But my grandparents? They were like the couple from the movie Up. Every night when my grandma wasn't home, my grandpa was the type of man to flip through the scrapbook he made for her on Valentine's Day during high school. Honestly, they're the only reason I believe in true love. So one day, as I watched my grandma's hand wither away for the last time while her heart stopped beating, I also had to watch a greater tragedy, my granddad's heartbreak. It got so bad that he even started having a heart attack. That's when things got real. He ended up being in hospital for weeks due to dozens of health complications the nurses uncovered. I still remember being beside him while the anesthesia wore off. At first, he would speak gibberish about how much he loved my grandma, or how much he appreciates life. But once, after a particularly high dosage, his tone shifted. "I miss the things we used to do together," he said, with a faraway look in his eye. "Grandpa, we can do them," I'd always say, trying to reassure him. Usually that was enough to soothe him, but this time was different. "You're too young for that stuff, honey. Let's keep you out of jail, eh?" He then laughed like it was an inside joke that I was in on. I turned super red, thinking he was talking about SX or something, but then I got this awful gut feeling that made my entire body itch all over. So when my grandpa fell back asleep, I did what any loving granddaughter would do in that situation. I went through his phone. At first, there was nothing too crazy in his camera roll, just photos of him and my grandma, me as a baby, the works. But that's when I saw a hidden folder. Like, what the F is an old man doing with a hidden folder setup? Luckily, he wasn't smart enough to make the password anything other than my grandma's birthday. But as soon as I unlocked it, I regretted it. Because right there was a photo of this storage unit in the outskirts of our town. I didn't even recognize the street name. Well, I was curious and I have a driver's license, so I put the location of it into my phone before heading out. Looking back, I was so heartbroken from the sight of my granddad in pain that I forgot to even acknowledge my own. And I guess that grief forced its way out of me through an intense obsession of finding information. The drive there was so long that I managed to rewatch all of Madeline Argy's YouTube videos in one go. The storage unit was unlocked, probably because he hadn't expected a teenage psycho to come snooping around. Inside, everything was covered with a thick layer of dust. It smelled like rotting meat. I even had to cover my mouth with the sleeve of my hoodie. Before opening the storage door, I took a deep breath and braced myself. But there was no amount of bracing that could have adequately prepared me for what I saw next. On the surface, it seemed to just be a row of boxes all stacked against each other. But then I opened the one at the top. Inside were dozens of photos of me as a child, ones I didn't even know existed. The first batch was tame. Just me in a bikini by the pool, me eating what was probably my first lollipop. Nothing crazy. But then I kept flipping through and I swear I felt my soul leave my body. Photos of me sleeping, completely unclothed. Photos of me in my cot while men I didn't recognize stood over me touching their, well, bile rose in my throat. My breathing was so shallow, I swear it felt like I had just run a marathon or something. I don't even know why I kept looking, but I did. And by the time I had gotten to the third box, I was looking at photos of me crying and locked in a dark room. And not just a basement or anything, no. The walls were lined with toys. By this point, tears were streaming down my face and I was rocking back and forth on the floor. All the photos were all taken from before I had turned 3, which I guess explained why I didn't remember any of it. But I always thought I had a normal childhood. My family practically prided themselves on being the white picket fence dream. I tried to convince myself it wasn't me, that this unit didn't belong to my granddad, but that was practically impossible because on the back of all the photographs was my name alongside dates and my age, all of which lined up. As I sat down and stared at the ceiling, I thought about it. All the creepy jokes my dad made, all the money we had that couldn't have come from my parents' jobs, why I don't have any memory of life before turning 10. The rest of the full story is on my channel and linked below.